Thank you both for joining us. I guess just real quick on behalf of our co-hosts here, we got Adam from Carnivore Today, Alia Wells, Sean, and JT, and we got Emma here. Thank you for joining us on the 24-hour live stream. Would you mind giving us a little bit of background, telling us your carnivore story?
Sure. So we've always tried to eat healthy and holistically, whole foods, and prepare our own foods and eat organically and whatnot. Yet, despite all of that, we still suffered from different ailments and whatnot. And I was always, I used to lift a lot of weights and stuff, so I was always partial to meat. And so I continued to eat meat, but my wife was much more plant-based. And then as God would have it, she started seeing more information about carnivore. And it was about 100 days ago or so. She was like, hey, why don't we all we're a family of 8. She's like, why don't we all just go carnivore?
Well,
and I'm like,
it was funny. I actually started watching Homestead How.
Yeah,
and
Homestead How.
I was just so fascinated with the changes. So that's kind of, yeah. I mean, you were literally one of the first ones that we started, that I can remember that I saw.
Yeah, because we have a Homestead channel, and our channel has evolved a lot and changed a lot. And when we started carnivore, we had so much success health wise. I have an arthritic condition in my left shoulder, and they basically four orthopedic surgeons told me, you need your shoulder replaced. And so they did a procedure, and then it kind of started getting worse. And they said, what do you want us to do? You need your shoulder replaced. Then I got stem cell therapy, which worked very well. But then even that, ultimately plateaus. Well, right at the time as that was plateauing, we switched to carnivore, and my shoulder continues to heal. I'm missing about 30 or 40% of my labrum, and the top of my shoulder is kind of shrunken. But by implementing carnivore and going meat-based with heavy fats, I continue to improve. And I'm 47, and I don't really want to replace my shoulder anytime soon. So that's a little bit of our story. And then when it comes to homesteading and preparedness, once we started implementing carnivore and sharing it on our channel, we have been raising cows, and we found an awesome local microprocessor near us that you didn't have to wait 6 months or a year to get your cows back. So we said, hey, why don't we start offering some of our cows to our local subscriber base? And that business has exploded. So we're raising our own. It's doing a little too well because our freezers are empty, because we've been a little bit too aggressive with our marketing, and when we send 2 or 3 cows to the processor, one of them is supposed to be for us, but the last 2 times we've sold them out from under us. So,
and so many people that have just watched on the channel, or they've come and bought meat from us. There's like so many people now that they're like, oh, I'm trying this now. I'm trying this carnivore thing. And they have like a list of health conditions. And it's just so powerful that you can share something with somebody that can actually have potential to help them. It's just such a powerful thing. And we're just so amazed by all of the benefits just with our health, and then with our children, different things that we just really struggled with for so many years. And at least the past 9 years, whole foods, heavily plant-based, or if we did our own meat, it was from our neighbor or from our cows. So just being very purposeful with everything that went into our mouth. 5 years ago, I had a really aggressive thyroid cancer, and thyroid nodules in my throat, and we ended up down at a cancer hospital. And praise the Lord, the Lord healed me of that, and we were very, very strict with our food because of that. But but still we suffered from so many things, just poor health, no energy, just feeling awful, overweight.
Yeah, it was very discouraging because here we are eating healthy the way you're supposed to, and eating whole foods, and eating. We were gluten free, we were dairy free,
Sugar
we
free.
were eating organically as we could, and sugar free. So we weren't eating any processed sugars. We weren't eating any seed oils either. But it was like, this is, I chalked it up to old age. I'm 47. I'm like, man, I guess this is like when you get old. And that was so incredibly not sleeping. It was so frustrating because I'm like, man, we do all this stuff and we try to eat right and exercise and do all this stuff right, and I still feel terrible. It was very discouraging.
And it was a struggle, even like going back a little over a year ago, because we've been carnivore now for a little over 100 days, our whole family. But going back a little over a year ago, I was about 30 pounds overweight, and I tried for about 3 or 4 months, basically fasting 4 or 5 days a week, just water fasting, just eating one meal a day, just salad with just raw tuna fish on it, no dressing. And I struggled through and limped along, and I finally lost 25 pounds, but I still didn't feel good. I was exercising like crazy. And then as soon as I stopped and went back to eating because I was hungry, all the weight just came back plus some. And it was like, how am I supposed to do this?
Right.
Wow. So you mentioned your family too. So you've been doing carnivore about 100 days. Did you say your whole family, like your children, are with you too on this?
Yeah, the kids too. They're a little bit ketovore. We still do some frozen berries for them, and I guess that's pretty much
it.
And
any
them.
fruit. We have about 400 fruit trees planted because I collect figs and mulberries, and we have lots of different fruit trees planted. So we still eat fresh fruit in season. That's ours. But other than that, yeah, everybody, all 8 of us are pretty much carnivore, ketovore.
So you have 6 children?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, we're trying.
So our oldest is 18, and then our little guy is 5. And it was an adjustment maybe for different ones, it was a bigger adjustment because a few of our kids, because we were so heavily plant-based, like a few of them would prefer not to eat meat. Like that's how I was most nights. I would just skip the meat. So I didn't like beef ever in my life. I did not like bacon. I like the smell of bacon, I would say, but I would say I never liked bacon. And I couldn't stand an egg. I wouldn't even like the smell of an egg. So I'm like, okay, Dr. Barry says beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And I was dairy free for 5 years because of my thyroid. So I'm like, well, I don't do butter. So how am I going to do this carnivore thing, But I made a decision, and I was just like, you know what? I don't care what it tastes like. I'm going to make myself eat this beef. And after a couple of weeks, you just start to just enjoy it. Like it tastes so good,
Yeah, I mean, that's not like, that's honestly, I did not like steak before carnivore either. Like I could take it or leave it. Like it was no big deal to me. Like I was like, I don't care about it. You want to go out for a steak? No, I don't want a steak. I'm gonna take it or leave it. No big deal. But now, a year and a half down the road, I'm like, just give me the steak. I don't care what's on it. Just the steak, It's amazing. And I can tell the difference. Even my wife's been on it for 6 months almost or whatever. The difference between eating ground beef and steak, there is a difference that you can tell. And people think I'm crazy, but there is a huge difference. And so, it's amazing what you learn when you actually throw out all the stuff that you've been told your whole life and experiment for yourself, find answers for yourself. I mean, I'm excited to, for your guys' story. I mean, you're raising your own food. You're putting in work. You're being an example. I mean, you're showing what's more American than that, right? I mean, you're showing the people an example of how we should be living. So I appreciate that.
It's kind of fascinating from our homesteading experience. there's this Homestead tsunami that Joel Salatin talks about a lot, and we were kind of part of that. 10 years ago, we moved and started doing all that, and the frustration that people have with, what doesn't get talked about is the frustration that people have growing their own food when it comes to fruits and vegetables and different things like that. And now we're doing it on a neurotic type scale when it comes to my food forest with 400 fruit trees and whatnot.
Right. But even trying to just prep,
Right.
You say, okay, I want to grow enough food to have a pantry prepped for a year for my family. And, we worked for years trying to get that pantry filled up and to prep it. And now it's kind of funny because now I'm selling it all to my neighbors.
It's really
I got the whole pantry on Craigslist because it's like, okay, this is kind of a funny joke, Lord. Like, yeah, it's all gonna go.
Well, the amazing part about all this, right, is like, how do you make your homestead self-sufficient in the sense that just by embracing this change and then being able to sell our own beef direct, like we've actually made our homestead profitable. Like we're going to be able to turn a net profit. We're selling 3 cows a month, fully processed. And the other really neat part is getting to meet our customers at the meat pickup and talk to them and hear their story and what they're doing. And I'm fascinated by the hundreds of people that follow us on all of our different platforms, and even older folks that are like, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm going for it, And then when we do our live streams, they'll be like, I'm 3 weeks in and I'm down 14 pounds and all this stuff.
It's so neat.
It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, the whole homestead the whole carnivore community is so neat. I mean, I watched all y'all so much, hours and hours, all of you guys, you don't even know. Like, I'm taking walks outside and I got y'all going, and I'm listening to you, and we cheer each other on, and it's exciting. Being healthy is exciting.
Yeah, it's the best community for sure. I love what you're saying on the homesteading stuff, because you're about the same time as me, and we started 8 years ago. Not a huge homestead. We got about 20 acres, but it's mostly pine forest. But what you said is so true. I remember when the big C came around, lots of people were panicking, like, oh, we need to get our own food and everything. And like, oh, it's okay, I'll just grow a garden. And I'm like, good luck with that. I think the first 4 years at our place, we struggled just to grow anything in there. We have really sandy soil by us. And you got to amend that soil. It could take years sometimes to get a good garden going, especially we were complete rookies. We came from the city, moved out to the country, so we didn't even know what the heck we were doing anyways. Same for you? That's pretty cool. Well, you guys have figured it out now. You got the cows and the fruit trees and everything. I did a video with my neighbor a while back. We get a lot of our grass-fed beef from him. He's right down the road from me. And he's a 6th generation farmer in Wisconsin. And very proud, I've gone to church with him for years, and I always knew what he did, but to get the opportunity to spend the day with him, whole new appreciation. This guy, like, he never really talked that much in church, but he's passionate about farming, and he was really fired up. And he's like, by the time I'm done with it, I'm like, you're not even a farmer, you're like a businessman. He's like, I'm a geneticist. We got to figure out which cows, this, that, the other thing. A scientist. Weatherman. He's got like 7 different roles. I did a video with them, and I'm like, we need to raise up and praise the voices of people running independent local farms like that. This guy,
you're right.
He works so hard. I said this before when I did the video with him. I drive past his house every day. If I drive past at 4 a.m, he's out working. If I drive past at 7 p.m, he's out working. Midnight, he's out on the tractor getting hay. He works a full-time job in between all of that. He works 8 hours in a factory because he's just making pennies. And after I got the whole thing done, he has so much passion. He cares for the animals. He's a good steward of the land, good steward of the animals. He's doing everything right. The meat is great. But it was sad for me afterwards, because I'm just thinking logically in my head. I'm like, what next generation is going to do that the way he's doing it? So I'm thankful
You're
to
right.
hear that you guys are doing it and you're having good success. I'm
We're just-
hopeful that more people will get the word out and more people will want to do it, because if you guys don't do it and they don't do it anymore, what are we left with? Just big production factory farms.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a war on meat in
War on food.
this country. There's a war on food. There's a war on nutrition. And, you know, the more that we can partner up with our local farmers and, you know, buy from them, because they're dying off. They're a dying breed. And we see it here in Texas on a weekly basis. We hear in church. We just saw it actually this morning. We're visiting a church, and the man's 94 years old, and we heard the cows crying all morning. And there was a big trailer, and there were some cowboys out there rounding them up. And it was a sad morning because he's too old.
Too old to ranch.
He's too old to ranch, and he was loading up all his cows, and these cowboys were rounding them up to go take them and sell them, because and now what's going to come of that farm? I mean, beautiful grass, beautiful pasture, those animals, but there's no next generation, and that happens all the time, every day down here. That next generation is not, as a whole, that next generation isn't there wanting to ranch.
And another shortfall for beef ranchers that is actually currently being worked on by a fellow named Texas Slim at the Beef Initiative, beefinitiative.com. He's providing a network and a platform, because we know lots of beef ranchers, right? And they usually sell at the sale barn, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if there was a way for them to sell direct like we do, like if we were selling our cows at the sale barn, we wouldn't even be breaking even. And by being able to sell direct, we're actually capturing a profit margin that makes us, and there's so many ranchers out there,
they don't know how to do
that if they just knew how to do that, and there was a mechanism, and Texas Slim with the Beef Initiative is making that happen. And and it's really awesome. And this is a movement between the carnivore movement and, I mean, obviously the rancher raiser. You know, if we're going to eat beef, we got to have it to eat, right?
It plays into food sovereignty. And I think Dr. Chafee interviewed a lady, I think she's 80 years old, up in Canada. Yes. And I mean, she speaks a lot about that too. I mean, this is so powerful. It's not just about people getting their health back, but it's about people having food sovereignty.
Maggie's 82. She's in Alberta, Canada. She's been a carnivore for like 60 years, and she's just thriving raising beef cattle. Like, she's out there. I've been talking to her because I'm hoping to head out there and film her for the documentary, because she's both a carnivore, which is important to me, and she's raising her own beef, which, like I said, I think is hugely important and underappreciated. But she's just killing it. I'm talking to her, and she's like fixing fences all day long. She's all hours of the day working. But it's the same story as my neighbor, where I don't know what's going on up there by her, Dr. Chafee. I have a link in the description below, actually, for Maggie's fundraiser that Dr. Chafee started for her, because she's just getting all sorts of issues with the government and all sorts of problems up there, where she's basically paying to do this job, this critically important job. She's basically paying out of her pocket at this point just to maintain things. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure the government's taking her land is what's going on, and they're stealing the resources, because just like they do, they suck the life out of everything they possibly can, and it's coming to a town near you.
Right.
That's right. Right.
That's the thing, though, that we got a lot of people on here. I always tell people, lots of people on here starting YouTube channels, lots of carnivores. Those are one of the most interesting and fun videos I did, was with my neighbor. I did it just because I eat a lot of meat. I wanted to learn about it, but it fired up a whole bunch of people, and they're selling out at their place right now. So I'm really happy I was able to help a little bit with that. But for all the new YouTubers out there and carnivores out there that are looking for carnivore content, find your local farmer, hook up with them, do a video, get the word out. It's so important. And so you guys have a really popular YouTube channel too, and you're getting the word out as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. You know, we have about 98,000 subs. And then we have a podcast called the Fearless Podcast. We started a podcast to kind of circumvent some of the suppression, and the podcast is starting to take off. And it's funny because I was just interviewing a YouTube homesteader that was in Sweden, and they finally worked it out where they're moving to the States. And as I'm interviewing him, he said, "Oh yeah, 30 or 60 days ago, I went carnivore," and we started talking carnivore.
Yeah.
And so that was on our last podcast, the Fearless podcast. Simeon and his family are immigrating from Austria to America.
He's a carnivore now.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I watched his YouTube channel for years. He had a fascinating video. It was just the silly thing about how they heat their house with wood and all the different places. He's the best.
Yep.
Wow, he's a carnivore too. I like him even more now. It's spreading like wildfire. A lot of people aren't talking about it. Had he not mentioned it to you, you never would have known. But I'm seeing it here at our movie theater all the time. There's more and more people coming in. And I got this. I don't have it on now, but I have this shirt. I eat only meat. Ask me why. You guys should get a shirt. Everyone watching, get a shirt like that, because you'll be amazed at how many people will come out of the woodwork, and they're doing it too. So it's
awesome.
Definitely spreading. Yeah, I got a question on raising the beef yourself. How long ago did you get into doing that?
Oh,
5 years.
maybe
About 5 years ago.
Did you just jump into it? Like you've never done anything like that before?
We jumped into everything.
Cows are easier than chickens, Harry.
It's amazing.
All you need is a fence and some grass.
All you need is a halfway decent fence and grass. And cows have to be now. Right now, currently, we're raising Longhorn, which are some of the easiest.
We're trying to sell our Longhorn.
But,
if anybody's in East Texas looking for a good herd of Longhorn.
Now that we're carnivore and we appreciate the fat content, we're doing a lot of research on a couple of different breeds, and we're going to turn over our herd to raise the fat content, because that's the one thing the Longhorns don't have. They're very hardy, but they do not have the fat content. So we're in the process of learning all that part of it, and with the genetic part of it, and interjecting fat into our herd. And so we're looking at a couple of different new heritage breeds, and we're going to be turning our whole herd over here in the next 12 months.
But they're easy. Cows are
so easy.
They're so easy.
Really?
You're doing it the hard way with the goats.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the goats are an absolute nightmare in terms of fencing. It's like I'm almost laughing right here. It's like a high security prison or something, and they still get out of the fencing. The goats do.
We know all about it.
We've had the goats.
Yeah, don't anyone watching thinking about starting a new homestead. Forget the goats. It's not worth it. Our goats are kind of entertaining because we have an Airbnb on our homestead. So you were talking about financially supporting your homestead. We've been very blessed and fortunate to be able to do that, but it's been in a very creative, unconventional way with an Airbnb and a dog kennel and a YouTube channel versus growing our own meat and selling it. But I would like to, I was talking to my neighbor that's raising the beef. I was talking about maybe getting a cow or two at one point. But when you mentioned earlier about selling direct, are you saying selling direct as in they come to you and you have like a farm store, or you ship it out to folks?
No, we're not shipping.
No, we have a microprocessor. And so what we do is
it's a USDA family. It's USDA certified,
inspected,
and it's a little family owned processing shop, but they are all state certified and USDA certified.
And what's neat about that is, like, some people get geeked out about like the USDA thing, but here in Texas, it's just an inspection. So it has nothing to do with the process, or there's no chemicals or anything like that. And it's a microprocessor. They're like very flexible with our schedule. So we send 2 to 3 cows in usually at a time. And then when we pick it up, that's the day that we schedule our meat pickup. Right. And so we meet our customers.
So it's not ever coming home to our house.
So it's really nice because it's kind of like selling in bulk, because they can buy quarters, halves, or wholes. And on that day, we just schedule it with the customers, and they pick it up. So it's a very simple process that we just kind of fumbled and stumbled our way through, and we continue to improve it. And it's been a very enjoyable venture for us. So we have a website, TheTexasBoys.com, and we sell all kinds of other stuff there too. But if they're local in Northeast Texas, they can put down a deposit, and then usually within 30 days, the cows process. Like we have a pickup probably next week for 3 or 4 cows. And so we'll be sending out an email for our customers and syncing up with them next week for a pickup.
Nice. That was going to be my next question, but you kind of answered it. That's a really great way to do it because so my neighbor, what they're doing is they set up a farm store and they sell things. And it's wonderful because I can just go right next door and buy whatever I want. However, for him, it's a logistical nightmare because they'll process the cow, everyone will come and buy the steaks, and then there's just a bunch of like ground beef left. And it's a big problem. And then, like, how long does it take you to raise a cow? Like, if he goes through all of his cows, he's got to get another one. It's like a couple months, right? Or no, it's like 18 months.
Right. Well, it depends on the breed, how long it would take to, at least 18 months for most of the beef breeds. Now, we were looking at some low-line breeds, which is also probably worth looking into, Carrie, because if you have smaller acreage, I know 20 acres is a lot, but still when you're putting cows on it, it's still considered smaller acreage. You can get more low-line cattle on smaller acreage, and they flesh out that they have less bone density and you get more meat.
And higher fat content. And they finish out 14 months, and low line lives 7 years longer on average too.
Right. So Line Angus is one breed that you could look into.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. We got $100 super chat question.
Wow.
Operation is a stinky cologne. What do we do if they start coming after homesteaders? First, taxing the meats. What's next? No personal farms. I think we need to start getting more involved in politics, detestable though it may be.
Yeah.
It's
channel, like, you need to vote for your local sheriff. You need to be involved in your local elections.
Yeah, and on a political level, you need to be the solution. I think there's a danger as well in thinking that there's a political solution. So some people just think we'll vote our way out of this. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, dude, just do it. Bill, if you're into permaculture at all, Bill Mollison in his book said permaculture is sedition, because instead of like waiting for a political solution or trying to navigate a political solution, you just do it. You do, and you be, so if we develop this community and this network, right, and we're selling our meat to our customers, they love us, we love them, we're providing them with a healthy alternative, right? That is the political groundswell. That is the political movement. I think, I used to be real, Tea Party. If anybody remembers the whole, that momentary lapse of whatever the Tea Party was right before it got co-opted, or maybe when it started, when it got co-opted, I don't know. But I was real big into all that. And then it blew up, and it was this thing, and it was going to be this movement. And then it evaporated in like seconds, and it was gone. And that was when like, I think we're just going to do what we need to do. And we'll let them worry about whatever they're going to do, and just that. I think that's, and it continue as long as we have the freedom of speech to talk about it, to continue to vocalize the issues. That's why I love Dr. Baker, because he's getting down in the trenches, and he was like, you see what these kooks are trying to do?
And
like,
Dr. Chafee, and using these platforms to, it's like when people feel good and when people are healthy, you can think clearly, we can communicate more clearly, we can be so much more engaged in society and have a bigger impact. And it all just comes back to the food. Like, it's just amazing that, and we're going to fight for our food sovereignty, because that's our nutrition. I mean,
and we're going to be healthy enough to fight. And so the social planners can obviously see the problems with that, the challenges with that, and you know, I think the movement will kind of power itself, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. If you think there's anybody with an R or a D or anything else after their name's going to fix your problems, you're sadly mistaken. Private thoughts lead to public action, and what's going on behind closed doors has worked its way out into the streets in this country. And it's going to take people like yourself, who's putting in work, who's raising a family, teaching their kids, and setting a, you know, being involved in the community to change things. You know, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Stand up for what you believe in and quit just sitting idly by, you know, and letting just things take over you. You know, be intentional. You said purposeful. I kept waiting. I was like, say intentional. Nah. But I mean, it is. We have to live with intentionality, right? I mean, don't just go with the flow, because if you go with the flow, you're going to end up with the rest of society just trying to blend in. And you know, that's how we got in this mess. We need men to stand
we
up.
always say,
men.
We always say observe the masses and do the opposite. And you know, 10 years ago when we decided to move 2,000 miles and strategically relocate and live an agrarian, purposeful, slower lifestyle, you know, that's exactly what you're talking about. Living with intent, on purpose. You know, we've been synthesized and neighborhooded and Babylonian high-rise cities. Our society has been so synthesized, and the way it's been done, you want to know why the food is synthetic? Because one, it's the only sustainable way to stack them, pack them, track them high and deep, and do all these things in the concrete jungle. But so if you observe that and you do the opposite, one, you'll never be in a 15-minute city, and two, you'll be closer to your food. You'll be closer to God's creation. In my opinion, you'll be closer to God. Not saying that you can't be closer to God in an 80-story high-rise. But so much of society's social planners, you know, it's postmodern deconstructionism, and they've deconstructed humanity to make us think that it's normal to live in a concrete jungle and pick our food up in plastic packaging at Walmart.
And be sick all the time, you know?
And then wonder how it happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love what Dr. Kilt says about that, and says, you know, we're lions, not sheep. We're lions, and we need to go back to being lions and not sheep. And I'm like, I agree 100%. We are the lions, and we look to the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and those are the two things that we need, and that's all we need, you know. And we won't be led wrong.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. We got a super chat for $100. Midlife Carnivore says, "Let's rock the healthcare world to its core."
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, I was in those plant-based circles and watching all those plant-based YouTube channels for years, and I always felt horrible. I struggled with anxiety. I couldn't even go outside onto my homestead. My heart would start racing out of my chest. I had no energy to do anything. You know, I would always say, I'm just more than exhausted. That's what I would always say. I'm more than exhausted. And, you know, I didn't know that the answer was right in our freezer. I just needed to eat more of it. I was eating meat a little bit, but nothing, like in no significant amounts, you know. My vitamin D level was like scary, scary low. My thyroid was all messed up.
And the more I would read this plant-based propaganda stuff, like all the Lo Melinda and the Seventh-day Adventist stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is propaganda. Like, none of this stuff is like real science. This is scientism. You know, it's the same thing. It's just like global warming. It's all this. It's the same playbook, you know, and they're doing the same playbook, whether it's, you know, health and
what do you know? They're blaming the cows.
And now the cows are to blame for global warming too. It's like, of course, you know, whatever works, you know, we're the CO2 that they're trying to eliminate. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you know, they must blame the cows. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I want to try to get some of these super chats in before we have to bring on our next guest.
Sure.
So Marty Mack says people are going to the pharmacy instead of the pharmacy. Thanks for that, Marty Mack.
Yeah.
100%.
And Carnivore Scott says, love farmers and ranchers. So there you go, guys.
Thanks,
right.
Scott.
That's right. That's right. There are some great ranchers out here, y'all. There are some old timers. There are some middle-aged people farming, ranching every day of their life. Just like Carrie said, they are working their guts out, and those cows are on grass.
Yep.
You know, and they just go drive
There's
around.
no CAFOs.
Go talk to some people, and you can find. I tell my girlfriend, just buy a cattle trailer and buy your own cow and take it to the butcher shop. You'll save yourself a lot of money.
Yeah, you can do it.
You can do that. Rent a cattle trailer.
Yeah.
Hire a cowboy to pick the cow up and take it to the butcher.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And if you can't raise them yourself, support those who do.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Nice. Well, I love what you guys are doing. That's great. I'd love to maybe do a video together sometimes too. We got so much in common, and one big part of the documentary, it didn't start out this way. It's showing real examples of people doing carnivore over the course of a year. But after interviewing and talking to my neighbor more and realizing, well, once we tell people that, they're going to want to know where do they get their meat and how important it is. So I definitely want to include more folks like you guys are. So maybe we could talk about that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And how to do it with a big family, you know? I mean, it's.
Yeah, I talked to friends, and like one of my friends in Minnesota, he was like, man, I would do it, but it's so expensive. And they have 2 kids. I'm like, here's what you don't understand. When you cut out all those prepackaged snacks, whether it's healthy potato chips, that's deep fried in avocado oil or whatever, when you eliminate all that stuff, it's not expensive. Dollar for dollar, the nutrient dense protein that you're getting, dollar for dollar, it is cheaper to eat an animal-based diet.
And you're not sick all the time, so you're going to save money from going to the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Yeah. People totally underestimate that part too. I don't know how much I was paying for prescription medicines and doctor trips before, where now I have none of those whatsoever. Plus the additional energy you have to get work done. I'm getting so much more work done. Are you guys finding that in carnivore? Your brain power is a little bit different?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no brain fog. I didn't even know I had brain fog, until I went carnivore, and I'm like, oh, the reason I would always be like, oh, what's that word? Why can't I? And I'm like, oh yeah, that was brain fog. That's gone. And it's bizarre that you don't even, and just the improved sleep and
all my skin problems, all my hormonal issues, my cycle, just the emotional hormones, the hormone levels.
She used to wear glasses. She doesn't even wear glasses
I
anymore.
can see. I forgot to tell you that.
Weird.
Yes, I can see. I used to have to wear all the time for everything, and now I don't have to wear them. It's crazy.
And I know when you start telling people all this stuff, they're like, wait a minute, this is a little bit too crazy. But
the non-carnivores listening right now are like, yeah, right. But all the carnivores like Sean, we're all like, yeah, I know about that. I've seen that one happen before.
Yeah, it's wild.
I get them with just 269 pounds since last April. They're like, there's no way. You had surgery, right? I'm like, no, I didn't have surgery. How much were you working out? I wasn't really working. I was walking, after a couple of months. Well, yeah. Well, how in the world did you lose 269 pounds? Well, I just ate the proper human diet. But that's not even the best part. The best is yet to come. And like I go through the list, and everybody's heard it at this point, or most everybody's heard it. I'm still telling it, but man, I'm so thankful to God for leading me to this, and I can't wait to see what kind of difference as a community we all get to leave on this world, man. We have the potential to leave it better than we found it, and so for that I'm thankful. But it's going to take a lot of hard work, determination.
And now we have a large test group, right? We sell a T-shirt and a hat that says I'm the control group. Now that was before carnivore, and you can decipher that however you want. But we're becoming this gigantic control group, and guys like Baker, who started this 7 years ago, the the evidence, the proof's in the pudding. And the larger the movement grows, it has to become undeniable. And it's just, it's exciting to be a part of it and to be able to share something with somebody that they can implement, and within 30 days they can have real results. And
It's powerful.
it's very powerful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that mental toughness is undeniable, and that's why I think it's critical to get these testimonies. Everybody, if I tell them all the time, put it in the comments. No matter where you are, just talk about it till people are sick of it. And I'm sure I've been able to do a little bit of that. But it's good, man. That's what it takes.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
And we
thanks so
really
much
thank you for having us. And yeah, anytime anybody wants to do any interviews, we're open. And we always do a lot of interviews on the podcast, so I'd love to have y'all on there too.
Yep.
Awesome.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Love what you're doing. Great job. It's awesome you're raising your family
Awesome.
that way. Appreciate you.
Yes.
Everyone go
Thank you.
subscribe. I got the link in the description below. And you said you had a website too, right? TheTexasBoys.com.
Yes. Yep. TheTexasBoys.com.
Give them a subscribe. Check out the website. Awesome. Thank you both so much. Have a great day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, y'all.
Much love.
We'll see
God
y'all.
bless you guys. See you soon.